Have you ever had the disturbing feeling that your entire reality is being shaped by something you can't see, something that watches you, responds to you, and silently programs the direction of your life while you continue believing you're in control? It's strange, isn't it? That sudden whisper inside your mind that says, something is wrong with this world, and yet, you can't explain why. You can't put it into words.
All you know is that the illusion is wearing thin, and the truth hiding behind the surface of your life is beginning to push through the cracks. Maybe it happened when you were alone at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why everything feels scripted. Maybe it was during one of those moments when time felt unnatural, when déjà vu hit you so strongly it almost scared you. Or maybe it was the day you realized that the same patterns keep repeating in your relationships, your job, your emotions, your failures, as if your life were running inside a loop, a programmed reality designed to keep you asleep. Most people ignore these signs. They bury them under routine, noise, and distraction. But you didn't. Something in you felt the truth, felt the matrix tightening around your consciousness, felt the boundaries of your world growing thinner, felt the hidden truth behind your reality trying to reach you. As you listen to this, your subconscious mind is waking up, responding to the frequency behind these words, connecting to the quantum field where all information already exists. You might not understand it logically yet, but your entire body knows. Your consciousness knows. That's why you're here. That's why this video found you at this exact moment. Because nothing in your life is random, not the questions inside you, not the strange synchronicities, not the intuitive chills, not the sudden shifts in your vibration. All of these are signs of spiritual awakening, signs that you are beginning to see what others cannot, the coded structure behind your existence, the hidden truth they never wanted you to discover. Think back for a moment. How many times have you felt like your emotions weren't truly yours? Like thoughts appeared in your mind from nowhere? Like something invisible was influencing your choices, your reactions, your perception of what is possible? That's not imagination. That's the matrix. The system of beliefs, fears, limitations, and subconscious programs installed in you long before you were aware enough to question any of it. And the deeper you look, the stranger it becomes. Because once you start noticing the patterns, they multiply. The illusions become obvious. The facade weakens. The truth starts whispering louder. This is where the quantum side enters, where consciousness and reality merge, where your frequency shapes your experience, where the quantum field responds to your inner state, your emotions, your beliefs. You are not just a passive observer in this world. You are a participant, a creator, a node of awareness interacting with a universe that listens to you, mirrors you, and reflects your subconscious programming right back at you. That is why your life has unfolded the way it has. That is why your patterns repeat. That is why certain people appear at exactly the right time. And that is why you found this video. What you are about to discover is unsettling, liberating, and deeply transformative. It will challenge your perception of everything you've been told about who you are, how the mind works, how the world operates, and why your reality behaves the way it does. The hidden truth behind your life is not out there somewhere. It is woven into every decision you make, every emotion you hold, every frequency you emit. The truth is not far away. It is inside you, silently shaping your experience from the quantum level upwards. And once you understand the real mechanism behind this illusion, once you see the invisible architecture of your reality, once you recognize the matrix for what it truly is, nothing about your life will ever look the same again. Because now, the question is no longer, is something controlling my reality? The real question becomes, what happens when I finally see the truth? And that is where everything begins to unravel. And before we go any deeper, let me ask you something simple. If any part of what you've heard so far has resonated with you, if it touched a place inside you that you've never fully understood, then take a moment to support this space. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Not as a favor to me, but as a way of telling the algorithm that this is the kind of truth you want to keep seeing in your life. Engagement isn't just a digital metric here. It's part of the collective energy we're building together. When you interact with this video, you help it reach people who are going through the same silent awakening you've been experiencing. You help someone who feels alone realize they're not, and you help shape a community of people who refuse to stay asleep inside a programmed reality. So if you're here because something inside you is shifting, let your presence be known. Leave a comment,
Even if it's just a sentence. Tell me where you're watching from or what part of the awakening process you're in. Your voice matters, your awareness matters, and your participation helps expand this message to the people who truly need it. Now, with that said, let's go deeper. Because what you're about to discover next is the part most people never see. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There is a moment in every awakening when life stops feeling like coincidence and starts feeling like a message. For Daniel, that moment came on an ordinary night in late October, driving home on a quiet highway outside Denver. The road was empty, the sky unusually still, and for the first time in years he felt an uncomfortable awareness rising inside him, as if the world around him had suddenly become too familiar, too predictable, almost designed. He couldn't explain it, but the air felt different, heavier, like a curtain he had never noticed was finally beginning to lift. The lights from passing signs flickered in a way that made him question whether reality itself was flickering with them. For most of his life, Daniel followed every rule handed to him. Study hard, work more, don't ask questions, fit into the system and everything will be fine. But beneath the routine, something in him was always whispering, telling him that the world he saw was not the whole truth. He remembered being a kid, lying in the grass, feeling connected to everything, sensing energy he couldn't name. As he grew older, that feeling faded, buried under conditioning, fear and silent programming that shaped his subconscious mind long before he understood the power of perception. He didn't know the language of consciousness or vibration back then, but he could feel the weight of expectations shaping his choices. In the months leading up to that night, strange things had started happening. Déjà vu that lasted too long. Dreams that felt more real than his waking life. Moments where time seemed to stretch or collapse. And the recurring sense that the same emotional patterns kept repeating, no matter how much he tried to change. Every relationship ended the same way. Every attempt to reinvent himself led back to the same invisible wall. It felt as if something in his subconscious was looping, keeping him inside a script he couldn't see. One night, exhausted and frustrated, he searched online for answers. Why life felt mechanical, why he felt disconnected, why everything seemed predetermined. That was when he stumbled upon words like programmed reality, quantum consciousness, field of energy, hidden truth, and spiritual awakening. Something inside him reacted instantly, like a dormant frequency coming back to life. His chest tightened, his hands trembled, and for a moment, the room around him vibrated with a strange intensity. It was as if his perception had shifted by a fraction of an inch, revealing a reality beneath the one he had always known. From that moment on, everything changed. He began noticing the subtle illusions that once blended into the background. Conversations felt scripted. Social expectations felt artificial. The news sounded like conditioning. His thoughts no longer felt entirely his. They moved with the rhythm of old beliefs stored deep in his subconscious patterns. He sensed that what he had called life was actually a projection shaped by frequency, energy, and the stories he had inherited without conscious awareness. The more he observed, the more the cracks appeared. Small at first, then undeniable. And it was in those cracks that the truth began to reveal itself, not with answers, but with a single unsettling realization. The world he thought he lived in was only the surface of something far more complex, far more intelligent, and far more connected to his inner state than he had ever imagined. And little by little, Daniel began to realize that those cracks in his reality were not random. They were invitations. The more he paid attention, the more patterns emerged. He noticed how his emotions seemed to tune his experiences, how days filled with fear and doubt attracted more chaos, while moments of genuine gratitude seemed to bend circumstances in his favor. He started reading about quantum consciousness and the idea that the observer is not separate from what is observed, that his perception, his inner frequency, was constantly interacting with an invisible field of energy that ancient traditions called spirit and modern science calls the quantum field. Suddenly, memories of those déjà vu moments and strange coincidences took on a different meaning. They were not glitches to ignore, but reality glitches hinting at something beyond the surface. On a late-night walk, he caught himself thinking about a friend he had not spoken to in years, and at that exact moment his phone lit up with a message from that same person. Another time, he felt an intense urge to change his route to work and later discovered there had been a serious accident on his usual road.
These synchronicities were too precise, too aligned with his inner state to be dismissed as chance. It felt as if the hidden architecture of his life was responding to his consciousness in real time, shifting with every energy shift inside him. The more he explored this, the clearer it became. His subconscious mind was not just a storage of old memories. It was a powerful interface between his inner world and the outer reality he experienced. As he learned about frequency and vibration, he began to see his thoughts and emotions as signals broadcast into the field, shaping the kind of experiences that returned to him. Quantum consciousness stopped being an abstract idea and became a living experience. He realized that every time he believed he was powerless, the world mirrored powerlessness back to him. Every time he dared to trust that life had meaning, subtle guidance appeared. What once felt like a hostile, indifferent universe now appeared as a responsive, intelligent matrix of energy, waiting for him to wake up from automatic programming and participate consciously in the expansion of his own awareness. If you are listening to this and recognizing parts of your own life in Daniel's journey, if you have felt reality glitches, strange synchronicities, or that silent pull toward something beyond the obvious, I want to invite you to acknowledge that you are not imagining it. You are perceiving the edges of a bigger truth. Take a moment now and write in the comments, "I've seen the cracks." Not just as a phrase, but as a declaration that you are becoming aware of the hidden layers behind your reality. Leave your like and subscribe if this resonates with your soul, not as a favor to the channel, but as a conscious choice to stay connected to a community of people who are also awakening, expanding their consciousness and exploring the quantum field behind everyday life. Your engagement helps this message reach others who are silently going through the same awakening, and together we create a space where this kind of conversation is not only possible, but necessary. Daniel didn't expect the awakening to break him first, but it always does. It began quietly, like a subtle pressure under his skin, and then everything in his life collapsed at once. The job he had convinced himself was stability suddenly felt suffocating, like the walls were closing in on him. The relationship he maintained out of fear of being alone cracked open, revealing how disconnected he truly was. Even the small routines that once grounded him now felt strangely artificial, as if he were repeating lines in a play he no longer believed in. This was his dark night of the soul, the moment the illusion starts to fall apart so the truth can finally breathe. The symptoms came fast. His chest tightened for days. His thoughts spun between clarity and chaos. His perception sharpened so intensely he could feel the energy of a room the moment he stepped inside. Voices sounded distant. Time felt distorted. Moments stretched or snapped without warning. It wasn't madness. It was awakening symptoms. The breakdown of the old subconscious identity, fighting for survival, while a deeper consciousness pushed through the cracks. Daniel began noticing things he had ignored for years, like how his reactions weren't truly his, how his decisions came from conditioning, not truth, and how every fear he carried belonged to a version of himself he no longer wanted to be. Then came the day everything collided. A harsh argument, a mistake at work that left him humiliated, a message that reopened an old wound. It felt orchestrated, like the matrix inside him was collapsing in real time. Driving home under a gray sky, something inside him finally snapped, not into despair, but into surrender. He pulled the car to the side of the road and let the silence swallow him. For the first time in his life, he stopped running. He let himself feel the weight of every belief he had inherited, every expectation he had blindly followed, every version of himself built from fear instead of consciousness. And in that stillness, a strange clarity rose. Not a voice, not a vision, but a shift in perception, a move from the mind to the soul. He realized his collapse wasn't punishment, it was an awakening. The ego death he feared was only the fading of who he never truly was. The hidden truth behind his reality had never been hidden at all. It was present in every synchronicity, every intuitive whisper, every moment he felt out of place in the world he tried so hard to fit into. He understood then that the matrix wasn't outside. It was inside, woven into his subconscious patterns, held together by beliefs he never questioned. And as that inner structure fell apart, he didn't feel empty. He felt space. Space to breathe, space to question, space to become someone he had always sensed, but never allowed himself to be. It wasn't enlightenment. It wasn't bliss. It was the quiet beginning of a new perception, a shift in frequency that would change everything yet to come.
When the collapse finally settled into silence, Daniel noticed something he had never experienced before: the absence of noise inside his own mind. Not the absence of thought, but the absence of that constant inner pressure that had shaped his choices for years. It felt as if the subconscious programming that once dictated his fears, his reactions, his beliefs had lost its grip, and a deeper layer of awareness was slowly taking its place. In that stillness, he sensed the truth that had been waiting beneath everything he once believed to be real. It wasn't a voice, nor a vision, nor a revelation in the dramatic sense, just a subtle shift in perception, as if the world around him had moved half an inch to the left, revealing a hidden structure that had always been there. He felt the presence of a field, an invisible fabric connecting every emotion, every thought, every moment of his life. The quantum field wasn't a theory anymore. It was something he could feel with the same certainty that he felt his own breath. It occurred to him that his reality had never truly been external. It had always been shaped from within, from the vibration he carried, from the energy he emitted without realizing how powerful it truly was. The world didn't randomly fall apart before his awakening. It cracked exactly where his consciousness was ready to expand. Every loss, every glitch, every synchronicity, every moment of discomfort had been part of a larger design, guiding him toward a higher perception. He finally understood that the hidden truth behind his reality was not that he was trapped. It was that he had forgotten he could see. And now that the layers of illusion were dissolving, the expansion of his consciousness was no longer a concept, but a lived experience unfolding through every cell of his being. He looked back at the life he once protected so fiercely and realized how fragile it truly was. Not fragile in a tragic way, but fragile like an old shell that had been cracked open by the force of his own awakening. The identity he clung to was simply too small for the awareness rising within him. And as he felt this shift, he sensed, almost physically, that something was beginning to align. The energy around him seemed clearer, his intuition sharper, his perception expanded beyond the surface of things. It was as if he had stepped out of a fog and into a reality where the hidden architecture of his life was visible, alive, responsive. The matrix hadn't been destroyed, it had been revealed, and now that he could see it, he understood that the next step wasn't to escape, but to navigate it with consciousness. This realization didn't bring closure, it brought a new beginning. A quiet knowing that something else was coming, something larger than the collapse, deeper than the awakening symptoms, more meaningful than the patterns he had finally learned to recognize. The universe wasn't done speaking to him. It was only now beginning to communicate clearly through signs, synchronicities, alignments, and subtle nudges that felt like whispers from a higher intelligence guiding his path. He wasn't afraid anymore. He wasn't lost. He was aware. And now that he could see beyond the surface of his life, the real question wasn't, what is happening to me? But, what happens next when the universe finally begins to respond? If you felt this shift too, if something in this story mirrors your own inner journey, leave a comment saying, "Eu desperto," "Eu vejo além," "Estou expandindo," or "I choose to wake up." Your presence here matters. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who is also beginning to feel the cracks in their reality. Because in the next video, we will go even deeper into this awakening. In O Despertar, começa assim. O universo está tentando te acordar. I'll show you what truly happens when the universe starts guiding you through the signs you were never taught to recognize. Before you go, take a moment to acknowledge what is happening inside you right now. If something shifted in your perception, if you felt the truth moving beneath the surface of your mind, write it down below. Leave a comment saying, "I choose to wake up." That simple act is more than engagement. It is a declaration to yourself, a marker in your journey, a signal to the universe that you are ready to see more. If this message reached you at the right moment, consider subscribing. Not as a gesture of support to the channel, but as a commitment to your own awakening. A choice to stay connected to ideas that help you expand your consciousness, elevate your vibration, and break through the illusions that once kept you asleep. Every time you subscribe, like, or comment, you strengthen this field we are building together. A community aware of the hidden structures behind reality. A community determined to see what lies beyond the surface. And if someone close to you is going through their own silent struggle, share this video with them. Sometimes awakening begins with a single sentence, a single realization, a single reminder that they are not alone in what they feel. You never know who might need this message today. Because this is only the beginning. Everything you've experienced here is just the first step into a much deeper understanding of how the universe communicates with you. In the next video, we'll go further, exploring the signs, synchronicities, and energetic shifts that appear when consciousness begins to rise. Don't miss it. The journey continues in. Awakening begins like this. The universe is trying to wake you up.